Hi everyone, it's me, Darlene. I know it's dark. I usually have the light behind me on, but I just got done watching TV, America's Got Talent, and when I watch TV now, my eyes get so blurry, and I don't know if it's the distance I'm sitting from the TV or what, but my eyes are just very tired, and I just feel like being in the dark. You know I love the dark, the darker side of Darlene. What I want to do before I get too caught up into telling you guys all kinds of stories about my life, I want to go through the traits and talk about each one of them. So tonight I'm going to pick one, talk about it a little bit, like read to you what it says, and then I'll give you some examples of how it applies to me. And then if you want to share and give examples of how it applies to you in the comments, that would be great. The comments are awesome, and they're going to be helpful to everyone who is looking for help. So please don't feel bad if I don't reply to the comments, because like I've said before, this is, a very exhausting, I was trying to find a good word. This is an exhausting subject for me. I can be consumed by it. And especially when I see comments that I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I want to say. It can get me like all riled up and excited in a way. And, and I just, sometimes I just don't want to be drawn into that at that moment. So, but please leave your comments, because it will help others. So anyway, I have my iPad here, and I do have a blog, growingupcrazy.darlenemishu.com, and I'm going to just be putting all kinds of info on that blog. And right now I do have the traits of narcissism on there, and when you see the traits, you'll see a link that will take you to a page that explains a lot about the characteristics of that trait. So I'm going to start with the big one, empathy. When I think of a narcissist, I think of lack of empathy. I mean, that's the one that affects me the most. There's a lot of them that affect me. That's a big one. Let's just put it that way. So here's what it says. I happen to get this one off BPD Central, which is Bipolar Disorder Central, but these exact words are found like on many blogs. I know I have an air conditioner on too. It's very hot, so I'm sorry that it's dark and noisy. Okay, lacks empathy, is unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others. Lack of empathy is one of the most striking features of people with narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissists do not consider the pain they inflict on others, nor do they give any credence to others' perceptions. They simply do not care about the thoughts and feelings that conflict with their own. Do not expect them to listen, validate, understand, or support you. And I vouch for what was just said, because my mother does not listen or validate, does not understand, and by all means does not support me. She thinks she does, but it's always in a very roundabout way. Then they give a few examples. My partner would actually get mad at me if I was sick. I said, I sat here with you for days when you were depressed and couldn't get out of bed, and now you can't even be a little nice to me when I'm sick? That would be a typical characteristic. This one says, my partner would hurt my feelings just when things were going well. When I would question him about it, he would make up excuses and tell me I'm wrong for feeling the way I did, and that if I didn't like it, there was something wrong with me. I can relate to that one so much. Another example. I could spend an hour detailing how I felt, and she would sit there cold as ice. When it was her turn to speak, she tore down every word that came out of my mouth until I had to apologize for expressing how I felt. I ignored this red flag and made excuses to myself and others. I can agree to all of that, except that I don't know if I have ever apologized to my mother for expressing how I felt. Let me read just the rest of this, and then I'll talk a little bit about that. Note that narcissists can pick up on social cues and can fake it when necessary. Aside from looking normal, the hope is that they will get something back. This lack of empathy is so foreign to us, even some animals show evidence of empathy, that shocking instances can break through the denial and the hoping that one day we will get our turn. While it may leave us outraged, hurt, and feeling betrayed, it can be an eye-opening incident that we really need to acknowledge the limitations of individuals with NPD, Narcissistic Personality Disorder. As painful as it can be, though, we no longer feel as confused by the push-pull, or in some cases, just the push. A little bit about that. I need to start filling you guys in a little bit with my background. For those of you who don't know, my mother is the one who is narcissistic. I still live with her. I'm 55 years old. She's 93, and she still can tear me down. All my life, I grew up thinking that there was something very, very wrong with me, because my mother would flat out tell me that I was sick, that I was crazy, that I was losing my mind. She always said that I was a liar and that I didn't know what I was talking about and that I even didn't hear things. She could say something and in the very next sentence contradict what she said, and if I brought that up, you did not hear what I said. I never said that. And it's like, oh, I'm starting to think that there was just no way I was ever leaving her. I grew up knowing that I was not going to leave her, and even when I tried to leave a little bit, I came back. I always came back. And I also was an alcoholic who drank heavily from very, very early childhood till I was 39 years old. I wasn't geared up for making rational decisions and leaving. So here I still am. When I stopped drinking, I didn't have that to fall back on. And this is when I was really able to start saying, gee whiz, this is nuts. When I was drinking, things were not as bad because I was kicked back, low key. I was drinking. I didn't care. I had no reason to argue about stuff. I was gone out a lot. But when I wasn't drinking now, there was just nothing but me and my mother and whatever conversations we had. I didn't have any way to calm myself down. So it was a hard period because I started remembering so many things that I had kind of let slip by. It's not like I forgot things. I always knew those things existed. But while I was drinking, it's like I just didn't care, or that those things were still normal. It wasn't till I stopped drinking I started realizing that stuff was just crazy. You know, it was shocking to me. But then I remember one time specifically, and this is before I knew anything about narcissism, I remember the one time that we were having an argument, and my office was upstairs at that time, and my mother was still pretty mobile. I remember we were arguing about something, and that she came to the foot of the stairs and screamed bloody murder. "You're such a liar! You're such a liar! All you do is lie." And it's so ironic that, yes, did I lie as a child and a teenager? Yes. I lied to my mother as a teenager. But after I had my son at 17, I just felt like I was a grown-up now, and I didn't really feel the need to lie. She knew I was going out drinking. She knew what I was doing. You know, it's like there was nothing for me to lie about. I smoked, I drank. There wasn't anything to hide from her. So, but she always insisted that I was this liar. And when she screamed at me that time, and I was sitting upstairs at my computer, and she was screaming that, it's like that is the day that I stopped loving my mother. And I should mention that all my childhood, I not only loved my mother, I absolutely adored her. I admired her. I put her on a pedestal because I was brought up thinking that I was so bad and so evil and so lucky to have a woman who could put up with that as best as she could. She didn't do a good job putting up with her evil child, but I was conditioned to think that there was absolutely no one else who could have put up with me. You're lucky that I'm your mother, and don't you ever forget it. And so I just absolutely was like, you know, to myself, I was like, thank God I got the right mother, because nobody else would want me. And I carried that through my whole life. And I used to spend so much time crying because my mother was always dying. And I'll talk about that again. There's so many things I want to talk about. When I was little, my mother was always telling me she was dying, and it scared the living daylights out of me. And I was alone to take care of her. My father always worked 2 jobs, and she's 93 and she's not dead, but it was a very, very scary time for me, and I used to cry all the time, please don't die, please don't die, please don't die. And I just couldn't believe that my mother would die someday. And so it's like I cried for her all my life. I felt like those people who weren't her friends, or my mother didn't have friends, my mother didn't work outside the home, little bits here and there, but she can't. Narcissists are terrible at keeping jobs. They just can't. They're just above and beyond everybody at the workplace. So all my life, even when I went and lived in Texas, because when she did that screaming about you're a liar, this is when I had gone to Texas for 3 years, but I was still traveling all the time to come back to Maine to take care of my parents and do stuff for them. Well, when we moved back to Maine is when that happened. So this is after my father died, because I was now back. Andy and I moved into this house after my father died. We had an addition built for my mother. We moved into the old family home. And when I used to live in Texas, I would cry so hard, please bring me home. I can't believe I'm not with my mother. I mean, I just could not believe I was not with her, because I felt like I owed her the world, because she was willing to put up with me and take care of me all my life. So I just felt like I really owed her big time. And so, and of course I wanted to help my father. And ironically, those last 2 years that I took care of my father while he was dying were the 2 years that I realized this man was the nicest man ever. And because my mother made me think that he was just awful. I mean, just so many. My mother didn't want me to like anyone but her. And she made that really hard to do. So that day that she yelled at me at the top of the stairs was the day that I felt any emotion and love for her just drift away. And I was like, I've lost my mother. I have lost my mother, because the person who I admired and cherished, the person who I thought only acted the way she acted because I made it impossible for her to act any other way, the way she acted all had to do with me in my head. That was the day that I realized this is nuts, because I'm not a liar like that. I mean, am I going to say I never told a little white lie to her, maybe just to, you know, stop a fight or something, not divulge some information? But honest to God, I had no reason to lie to her about stuff. So that was the day that I lost my mother. And then it started to get really ugly, because I wasn't willing to go through the narcissistic bullshit anymore. I mean, it was like, it was hard, and we fought constantly all the time. I just fought to win, fought to win, fought to win. Had no clue still about narcissism. Then someone married into the family who I thought, this person is whacked. I had never seen a person like that, and I was like, I have to learn about this kind of personality disorder, because I knew there was something not right. Now, it's funny how I didn't really make the connection that this person was so much like my mother, but because it was somebody I hadn't been raised with, I noticed something's off here. So that's when I started reading, and I learned about narcissism, and I was like, this is my mother. I cannot believe this. This is my mother. I would read things that were like word for word stuff that she would spew out of her mouth. And I was mad. I was so mad to know that this woman made me feel like I was the worst child ever, and that I had to be thankful that she was willing to raise me. You know, it just made me so mad. So now, of course, I start reading everything I can, and I just kept getting more and more mad. And when I would talk to others about it, most of the advice is always things like, well, now you know, so you know what you're doing isn't going to work, so just, have to change what you're doing, or just ignore it, walk away, it doesn't pay to talk. And I understand that. I knew that everything I was doing, the way I was trying to handle it, was never going to fix it. My mother is never going to change. She's never going to understand. But I had to let off steam. And there was absolutely nobody to let off steam to. Not even my husband, who was living here at the time, because he was just like, I don't want to get into it with this bullshit between you and your mother. So I used to even say, I need time to suffer through this. I need time to be angry. It was like a death to me. My mother had died. What was even worse is I had the realization that I never had a mother. If you're raised by an abusive, narcissistic mother, you did not have a mother. This was like a robot person who was programmed to act and say things that were just hurtful and mean and evil. And there's no way they're going to think any other way, because they don't have that. They don't have that part in their head. And there's no empathy whatsoever. We were supposed to be talking about empathy, but this all plays into that. So in just the past couple days of talking to you guys on YouTube, I have discovered that, yes, it doesn't pay to talk to the narcissist. And believe me, I've even offered to let her read about narcissists. That is a joke and a half. You know what I mean? I have talked to her in depth and tried to explain to her why she is the way she is. Tried to just explain to her what a narcissist is. There's just no getting through there. Tried to explain all the time why I'm upset, why I need for her to love me as a daughter. When I just read there about somebody said I sat and spilled my guts out for an hour only to have my words torn down, I can be there and be crying and saying, Ma, please, please listen. You need to understand that what you just said hurt my feelings. It hurt me. I could talk and cry like that and beg for 15 minutes just for some understanding. Please, please just hear what I'm saying. And she can turn around and say, oh, one thing that she's always said to me is, supposedly she brought me to a doctor when I was just a baby because she knew there was something so wrong with me, and the doctor told her there was no hope for me. And she's thrown that in my face. Believe me, I don't believe a thing about this doctor, because on the other flip side, I've also been told that she had me tested and that I was a genius when I was little. This is before I even went to school. She was telling me I was a genius. See, narcissists like to do that because then she can say, you should be way up here, but you're way down here. You know, it's not just like I can be here. So if I got an A minus, that was bad because I was A++++. According to my genius test. And then the reason that I was so sick is because I was a genius level, but I was acting like a complete evil child. So it was worse than just, a mediocre child acting bad. I was this grandiose child acting bad. So that used to make me feel completely hopeless. It would be like, there's no hope for me. I can't even live up to a mediocre child, but I'm supposed to be a genius? I mean, and I even told people in school in young grades that I was a genius because I was told that. And I didn't know any different. They used to tease me. It's like, oh my God. So a lot of times, like, I can spill my guts out even now, and she'll bring up, yeah, that doctor said you'd never be able to be fixed. And now you're standing here telling me all these things. It's just... And it's like, what are you talking about? I just told you about my feelings. You're going to say that I said all that stuff because I can't be fixed? I mean, it's enough to make you literally insane. I mean, it's just awful. So the lack of empathy is a big one because it meant that she had absolutely no concern as to how much she terrified me as a child. And she terrified me in many, many ways by scaring me about a lot of things, and always telling me there were ghosts, and then scaring me religious-wise. She used to stand on a chair and scream at me that the devil was next to me, and she could see him, and I would be absolutely scared to death. And please, Mama, please make him go away. No, he's right there. He knows that you're so evil that the devil is going to be with you. And I had reoccurring dreams all through my childhood that the devil... My mother also had an obsession for shopping, so in my dreams we were always in a department store, and I would try to hide between the clothes, and I could see the devil's feet and tail, and I used to be so scared in my room, and I would fantasize about being able to drill a hole through the wall because I wanted to be able to have my face in the hole and see my mother so she could protect me from the other room. I mean, it was just... Do you wonder why I suffer from anxiety and depression? So, and again, that's just a little tiny piece, but those things were big. Religion was pushed on me in so many ways. If I was good enough, the Virgin Mary would appear to me, and I would sit in the bathroom and look out the window and look at a bush. You'd have to know a little bit about the Catholic religion and the saints, the children that saw the Virgin Mary on a... I don't know if they were the ones with the bush. Bernadette was the one with the... at the water. I used to know all these things. But I would sit and pray that the Virgin Mary would appear to me like she did to other children, because she was supposed to appear to me. That's how good I was, my mother said. That's how high up I was supposed to be. And if she wasn't appearing to me, that was proof that I was evil. So, spent a lot of time praying at the bush. And when I had the addition built for her, we had to get rid of a pool, and I had them tear out that bush, the bush that I used to pray to. So, I think I'm going to stop there. See, no tears. I'm just pissed off at all this. It just makes me so mad that I had to have a completely wasted life. I could have had a different mother. I could have been probably a very normal person. And when I look at my little Skylar and I see that girl and say, my mother used to torment me, I can't imagine anything. I can't imagine anything that I would say anything to her like was told to me. I mean, just, I was afraid of everything. And after saying all those things, I still cherished my mother because I thought, who on earth would want me? You know, nobody would. And that's how come I just never expected to ever get married. I mean, I was always, from very little, said I would never marry. I never was going to leave my mother. I would tell her that all the time. And it's funny that just, I don't know, a week ago, I happened to even mention it to Sandy, that my mother and I had it out, and I was like, you never loved me, Ma. You never loved me. It's like, don't tell me you love me. You don't even know what it is. And she said, which I thought was odd, her words were, if I didn't love you, I wouldn't have kept you. And I thought, is that usually what people say? If I didn't love you, I wouldn't have kept you? Was it an option for me to have been given away? I mean, you know, it's like... And I think in her head what she means is, after she realized she had an evil child, she decided to keep me. She didn't, like, hand me off to a mental institute. She kept me. But that was like the coldest way to ever say to somebody, I love you. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't have kept you. I mean, even saying, if I didn't love you, I wouldn't have fed you, makes more sense. I don't know. So anyway, that's what reading about empathy brought out of me. So please share your experiences if you dare to. Certainly feel free to get an anonymous channel if you want. I don't mind. You can make up any name you want. You don't have to have a little picture. That's fine and dandy. And Or feel free to go read what comments are there, because a lot of people are starting to share. And I mean, geez, I've only had this website for less than a week and I already feel like it's months old. You guys are just awesome. You guys are awesome. And I feel so much more comfortable talking about this stuff now because I am hearing other stories, and it's like, this is not like I'm crazy, and I'm starting to not be mad at my mother anymore, because I know this is not her fault. She has a disorder. She's mentally ill. I can't blame her in that way, but I can take steps to protect myself. And I really have, at this point, no interest in leaving right now. I just want to live here in this house and have a peaceful existence. I don't want to be yelling and screaming at my mother until she dies, because that does nothing for me. And the past couple days are probably the least stressful that I've had in a very long time. So I thank you guys for allowing me to have this outlet. It's like I just know if something happens, instead of trying to deal with it with her, I have content for my YouTube channel, and it's going to save my life. It is going to save my life, and I'm very, very happy about that. So I can't thank you enough. Wanted this to be quick. It's going to be hard for these things to be quick, but maybe I can do a lot of editing. And I will be back with more soon. And do go check out my blog, growingupcrazy.darlingmishu.com. Every now and then I post things there, other videos that I watch, other articles that I read, things like that. So thank you, and I hope this helped some of you recognize if maybe you are with a narcissist. I know some of you will think that it was awful what my mother did, and it was. Some people have, I'm sure, 20 times more abuse than I had. Some people might have had just a tiny bit of abuse and have it still affect them the same way. I don't think it's the amount or type of abuse as much as to, just how it sunk in with you. Because to be mentally abused by a parent, I mean, I just can't, especially a mother. I mean, they're the ones that are supposed to protect you, and she did a lousy job at that too. So much more to come. And anyway, that is it. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you guys later. I love you guys. Bye.